The Minister of State Property, Surveys and Land Tenure 3 weeks ago reversed some orders that ceded some CDC lands to some communities in Fako Division. We this day are going to be looking at what happened for these decisions to be arrived at, asking the question as to what happens to some of these lands that were already ceded to these communities, including a portion of the University of Buea land that was also ceded, already occupied by some people. What happens to these people? We equally are going to be answering the question as to who is thwarting the making of some traditional rulers in the southwest and northwest regions. Good evening, televiewers, and welcome to another edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We are going to be discussing on these two topics with our panelists all from Buea, regional capital of the southwest region. We are in the company of Barrister Ngongi Ikomi, who is coming back for the second time on this platform. We are glad to have you.
Thank you very much, Leonard. Thank you for having me.
How's Buea?
Today, wonderful weather. No rain, calm. Thank God. But the tensions are still there, pretty high. Yeah.
The tensions are still there, but you've not rested, always fighting for Fako lands.
Well, that is a mission I will do till I take my last breath. Because Fako land defines the very existence of the Fako person. And not only the Fako person, but many other people who live off Fako.
Okay, also with us is Barrister Ewule Leonga Edward, who is here with us. He's been here before, but he's with us this evening. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Ceded. It's a pleasure for me to be here. It's a pleasure for us to discuss on the issue touching on the Fako people. Our lands defines our heritage. It was said in the time of old, in the case of Amadu Tijani versus the state, it is said that the notion of sale of land is something that is foreign to us. That land is for the dead, that's the living, and even the children yet unborn. And so land is supposed to be preserved. And following what is happening in Fako, it is a call for concern that all of us must stand up as one man.
Okay.
And that's why we are here today to discuss on those issues.
Yes, we start with the University of Buea. I don't know, Ella, if you have pictures of the University of Buea. We should have them on our background there. Now, let's start with the University of Buea. It has been a long battle for the portions that were given back.
Yes, Leonard, it has been. I have been the lawyer on this matter for University of Buea for more than 3 years now. Actually, this began in 2015.
Yeah.
And I was assigned a file. And we tried to get the ministry or the Minister of Lands to resolve the matter before we went to court. But the minister shunned our appeals. Then it was the minister, Jacqueline, basically, I think, yes, before this new minister. She totally shunned our appeals for him to, or for her to intervene in this matter. So we took the matter to court. We took the matter to the administrative court in Southwest, in Buea, and in spite of the glaring, very glaring facts that militated against the intruders on that land, that court found it in its interest, I believe, to pass the judgment against University of Buea in 2017. So we appealed the matter to the Supreme Court of Cameroon. And on the 2nd of September, we received the judgment. The judgment basically quashed the judgment of the Southwest Administrative Court, accepted our petition as admissible, and cancelled the land certificate that was issued to the people who encroached on University of Buea land, 30 hectares of land, 31 about. That land was promptly sold to non-Fako indigenes, to non-Bulu villagers. 3 land certificates were established within a period of 3 days. the land exchanged hands in that quick succession. Because it was a cabal of people working within the administration, within the lands office, and within the group of demarcheurs or whoever who were transacting business on this land. But we're happy we got this this judgment in favor of the University of Buea. The University of Buea is a public institution which represents the interest of a broad public. There are at least 20,000 students in the university who represent at least 200,000 families in this country. But somehow, in a strange twist of things, the people at the Ministry of Lands were trying to represent the interest of private individuals against the interest of the states, which is represented by the University of Buea. It's a very strange thing. I've never seen that before.
Yes, but how do we understand that it took so long? Because you see, you are talking of something that started 2015.
Yeah.
And you won the case.
The problems
you won the case
in 2020.
20.
Yeah.
Wasn't it very obvious that the land belongs to the University of Buea?
Well, let us be clear about this. In 1977, the state took a decision that they were going to expropriate a piece of land in the area that covers Bulu village and part of Moliko for a public purpose, the creation of the University of Buea. So a ministerial order was issued declaring that land that was required for a public utility. So a process of expropriation went through. The details of that I do not know. I was not even in the country at that time. But what ended up is that in 2004, this government, this Ministry of Lands, issued a land certificate over a piece of land measuring between 246 and 260 hectares to the University of Buea. Then, strangely, between 2005 when the land certificate was issued and 2014, another land certificate was issued to some group of people who call themselves the Council of Bulu Village. But within a few days of issuing that land certificate to the Bulu village community or its chairman who represented the community, the land moved hands to an individual and another individual, and end up in the hands of somebody who lives in Kongsamba, a Bamile Kmer, I think, I've forgotten his name, who lives in Kongsamba. So the University of Buea called me on the matter and said, we have this situation when they saw big bulldozers coming to bulldoze land within university property. And we made pleas to the senior divisional officer, to the governor, to the Minister of Lands. We had no response. So we filed a pre-litigation complaint petition to the minister, giving the minister 3 months within which to resolve the matter or we'll go to court. The 3 months expired. The minister gave no answer to our petition. So we went to the administrative court in 2017. Well, the matter went on actually in 2016. In 2017, the administrative court issued a judgment against the university in spite of the glaring facts. The court made a finding of fact that the 30 hectares of land that had been issued as a land certificate was indeed within university property. But in a surprising twist of events, they ruled against University of Buea and maintained the fact that the land should be in the hands of this person in Kongsamba. So we went to the Supreme Court, and the result we happily got is that the Supreme Court saw the strength of our legal arguments, the reality of the issues at hand, and quashed the judgment of the Southwest Administrative Court. This particular judgment, Leonard, gives me and many other people hope who had almost given up about the independence of the judiciary of this country. One of my colleagues sadly commented that the court cannot rule against the government. But I mean, CAF is the government. The Minister of Lands and Land Tenure and Service is a government institution, and the Supreme Court found it right to rule against them. So this, for me, gives us a lot of hope that a lot of the injustices that are being perpetrated, particularly in some of the lower courts, can be rectified at the highest court of the country.
Yes, but the case, according to you, started 2015. These lands, portions of these lands were sold out to individuals who were working on it, knowing fully well that a judgment could come out in their favor or against them. Yes, but what gave them the courage, the guarantee to go on working on this piece of law?
Mr. Leonard, you have to understand that even though there was a land certificate issued to the University of Buea, but there was another land certificate issued to this group of persons. And you know, if you look at the 1974 law and the 1978 law, all of that, 1974, 5, 6, 7, and 8, it tells you that the land certificate, it's the final document that shows your right over a parcel of land. So by them bringing up that land title,
they convinced the guys.
Everybody believed that that land really belonged to the person, because if you look at the ministerial ordinance, you look at ordinance, that's a ministerial circular number 008 of 8 August 2014. It spelled out the procedure in which land, those surrenders could be handed out. So there is a commission that has to be set up. So by individuals noticing that all this procedure have been followed until there is a land title, because the land title is the final document that tells an individual that he owns that particular land. But you know, with that, if you present it to any ordinary person, the person said, oh yes, it means you have right over that piece of land. And that is exactly what happened. And Leonard, looking at what happened when the administrative court of the Southwest overturned that is rule against the University of Buea, stating that that land belonged to some individual, to the Burun community of Burun native, and to the individual. It gave hope even to any person who had to carry out construction work. Many people did not believe that the Supreme Court, that the administrative bench of the Supreme Court could come up with such a fine judgment, because many people have this notion that the judiciary is very weak and browbeaten, and they believe that the judiciary only take orders from the chancery, maybe from the Ministry of Justice or from the presidency. So many people thought that since as the land certificate was issued by the Ministry of Lands, the judiciary cannot issue a judgment against them. But it was shocking for everybody on the 2nd of September when that a decision in the administrative bench of the Supreme Court came like a bombshell. It took everybody by surprise. And let me tell you, Leonard, the whole FACO is shaking. They know that anything can happen, because the minister has come up with a fresh impetus. When he sees that the land title was done fraudulently, he cancels.
But now, you were struggling at the level of the courts, administrative, and then moved on to Yaoundé. Did you have a feeling that the University of Buea, that is also an institution that belongs to the nation, was abandoned to itself? Did you feel the community fighting for their land?
It is a very sad feeling, Leonard. You know, first of all, this is a state institution, very prestigious state institution, created by the state, having the ministry, the department, which is responsible for protecting state property. This is the Ministry of State Property, Surveys and Land Tenure. Its first primary role is to protect state property. University of Buea is a state property. And this same ministry was fighting against University of Buea, against the institution which it has an obligation to protect. It's something I can understand. When I wrote to the minister and in my submissions in the court, I raised this anomaly that I find it very strange that the very institution that is mandated to protect state institutions was fighting against a state institution for the benefit of a private individual in Kongsamba. I cannot understand that. But again, like I said, what has happened gives us hope that actually we can get some justice from our system.
Away from these individuals, are there not some the community? I'm talking about Buea community, I'm talking about the FACO community, I'm talking about the Southwest region, I'm talking about the Cameroon. why was nobody seemingly joining this fight to save the University of Buea land?
Not that people were not joining, but as I said,
were they completely ignorant?
No, they were not ignorant. Please, you know there is a serious cabal that has been set up, a very serious machinery when it comes to expropriation and grabbing of land in Fako. Most especially, and this cabal, you know the way our system and our nation works. People are scared that, oh, if I speak, my position is going to be affected. Look at what is happening with even the lands in Fako, with all this grabbing. Have you seen any of our parliamentarians standing up? Have you seen any of our senators standing up? You see that the issue is that people are scared to come, and people did not believe. Like what my learned friend here, Senior Barrister Ngongi, he believed that he saw a light at the end of the tunnel, and that is what Cameroonians should always see, a silver lining at the end of every tunnel. So it is not that people did not believe, but Cameroonians are still doubting themselves. Cameroonians don't know that if something is wrong, you don't just sit behind that, that is how it is. We must stand up, and that is exactly how the University of Buea stood up, and that's exactly how Senior Barrister Ngongi stood up, and we are getting justice now.
Okay, you're getting justice. I remember some 4 or 5 years down, I saw a letter that circulated in Buea, carried by some newspapers, where a group of traditional rulers were requesting from the minister to give them a part of the University of Buea land. How do we understand this? Knowing that the university may in the years to come, the land that is today considered so much for the university may be not enough.
Yes, Leonard, you see me laugh. It's not a laughter, it's really crying. You see, what we are doing here is a very joyless but necessary mission. Because when you look at the problem that we have in Fako, part of it is caused by us, Fako people. Now, the chiefs of Fako are the custodians, or they are supposed to be the custodians of our ancestral lands. These people, or this group of chiefs, not all of them, wrote to the president of this country, asking him to cut off some part of the University of Buea land, to give them so they could sell it off and pay their debts incurred from their extravagant artificial lifestyle. That was the essence of it all. Now, tell me, will that inspire with any joy? It's very sad. It's a very sad commentary on the quality of the chiefs, some of whom have been fabricated by our administrators. The administrators in Fako division today, DOs, SDOs, governors, all of them, they're part of the fabrication of this cabal of chiefs who are not really chiefs. Because a true chief will never want to sell property that belongs to his ancestors. Now, did you ever hear, for the long reign of late Chief SML Ndeli of blessed memory, maybe lie in peace, did you ever hear that he sold land? Did you ever hear any scandal regarding that honorable chief? Of course not. Those are people with gravitas. But we take somebody on the roadside who has never earned 20,000 francs a month and show him the possibility of selling property that doesn't belong to him, earning millions of francs, and driving cars he never dreamt to drive, living in big mansions he never dreamt to live in. What do you expect? The temptation is too strong, especially if they don't owe any allegiance to that community because they were put there by administrators. This is the problem.
Just to come in, it is very surprising that our own chiefs that should think of our university, that is the pride of Buea, the University of Buea is the pride of Southwest, is the pride of Buea. Instead to write to the government for an expansion of the university, for more faculties to be built, they're talking of getting that the university does not have enough land. What land? The University of Buea, we need more land for the university.
Absolutely.
We have a faculty of agriculture and veterinary medicine. We are supposed to even have a plantation of the university.
Absolutely.
We are supposed to have a veterinary center. We are supposed to have expansion. Look at where the Faculty of Health Science is. Even though it's part of the university area, but look at, because of the crisis in Bomaka and Amuna, it's difficult for the children, for students to attend classes there. So you see that if not that in 2014 and in 2012 when they were building, if not that that land in Bulu had a problem, that faculty could have been built there. The faculty could have been there. Yeah. So these are some of the things. We are instead seeing how we can expand the university. Let me tell you, Leonard, do you know that when the President of the Republic signed a decree that they wanted to give a university to the Southwest region, like what my learned friend said here, the people of Fako, with the paramount chief, the soul rests in peace, and some group of Bakwe Eri, decided to give that portion of land to the development of Buea, and that is why the university was placed there with Moliko and Bulu, all that area, giving for that particular project. And a Bakwe man, even an African man, is the type of man that if I give you my shirt, Leonard, that shirt, if I give you in good faith, I should not come back to start saying that, oh, Leonard, now that you have bought 2 shirts, please give me back the shirt. I will not do that. And that particular land has been given to the invest community, and that is why you see that even our ancestors fought for the university, because when the university was created, our ancestors accepted the university and gave that land to the university. And that is why even when the lower court ruled against the university, our ancestors fought for us, and the administrative court of the Supreme Court still went on to respect the wishes of our forefathers.
I would just like to add one little thing. You see, we are not against our community in Bulu having land for the development of the Bulu village. In fact, I'm a member of that community also.
Have they finished developing land?
But the issue here is that land, no one person in Bulu had a piece of 30 hectares of land. It was all promptly sold out to strangers, to foreigners. If you look at the ministerial circular that Barrister Iwule just talked about, I was there. I instigated that circular in July 2014. The minister reiterated clearly that this cessation of lands that were occupied by CDC are meant for the expansion, development, and benefit of the indigenous of that area, and that if the land left the hands of the indigenous, that surrender will be cancelled. That was the purpose. This same spirit is what is contained in the findings of the Trusteeship Council in 1949, after the Bakwe Lands Committee petitioned the United Nations to get back all the lands that were illegally occupied by the Germans. That same spirit of the letter is there, that the only rationale for ceding land to the indigenous is for them to benefit from it. Now, if you look at the whole process of land surrender in Fako, the indigenous are not benefiting from it. In fact, it is strangers who are benefiting from it, especially administrators and land and survey officers, and a few handful of chiefs handpicked by these administrators. The indigenous of the villages themselves, they don't. And every time they complain, the chiefs have them locked up. I've removed hundreds of young people from the police detention over the past 5-6 years. Whenever they complain against the chief, they lock them up. Case in hand, Botaland. The Botaland chief had some of his elites in his community locked up, and even fabricated complaints against them that they were Boko Haram terrorists. This is the level at which some of our chiefs go to hurt their own community for their personal benefit.
Okay,
it's very sad.
Yes, can we understand the portion of university land we are talking about a year, and are people already living there?
No, not to the best of my knowledge. The last time I did a local's visit to that land of the court was 3 years ago. Now, that land adjoins the Bulu village itself. If you enter the Malingo Junction in there, you enter Malingo Junction, you go past the Catholic Church, you go beyond for about 1 kilometer, you get to a junction which the road continues up to Toileti, you go left into the Bulu village. Bulu village has about 3 or 4 houses. It's a village of about 3 or 4 houses. Now, if you go back down there, On the left, on the border with the Buea village, that is where the university land is. The university had bulldozed a road there, with the intention of making that road the buffer between them and the village. And that is the area where these people came with their bulldozers to start breaking up to build their houses. We intercepted them, had a few of them locked up, and they stopped the work. But still, the case was in court, and it was resolved recently.
So nobody is living in that?
Not to the best of my knowledge. I have not been there in the past 3 years to see.
They have built in the area.
So if they are built in the area,
because after the decision of the administrative court in Faco, it gave people the leeway to say, go ahead, the matter has ended in court. Nobody believed that the decision was going to be overturned at the level of the administrative bench of the Supreme Court. But just to add, are you aware that after the decision of that administrative bench of the Supreme Court, and I don't know whether it was a day before that decision, a circular came out from the Minister of Land, Land Tenure, to the Vice Chancellor of the University of Buea, telling him that that land at the Buea side should be left there, and that the government was going to give another land to the university. It is the most outrageous thing you can ever hear in the world, that a land that is in dispute, that is in court, the minister will sit in Yaoundé and write that a land that is a university, that the vice chancellor should leave the land, as if the university is a vice chancellor's university, that he should leave a land that is a university land to a cabal of people because he feels that the people have already built on the land. Or he gave some reason, but we think that Cameroonians should know that the decision of a court is a decision that the minister cannot overturn, because the administrative court goes on to correct administrative actions, and that is exactly what has happened. The administrative bench of the Supreme Court has corrected the action of the minister, giving a land title to that to the Buea native or whatsoever, or to the man in Konsaba. So whatever letter the minister is writing to the vice chancellor, Mr. Vice Chancellor, the letter is of no moment, because the decision of the court has more powers, more than the so-called
if there is land to be apportioned to the University of Buea, why not just apportion it to the persons concerned?
That's it.
See, but first of all, you see, I have prepared a reply to the minister. I'm the lawyer for the University of Buea in this matter. When we got the Supreme Court decision on the 2nd, the Vice Chancellor received a day or two later on a letter dated 1st of September from the minister, telling him that at the recommendation of the senior divisional officer, who was supposed to have led a commission, they have decided that they will give University of Buea land somewhere. Now let me ask you the question: does the minister own land somewhere? Does the senior divisional officer own land somewhere that they're going to give the university? The government owns land through a process of expropriation. That land in which the university is located was never government land. It's not government land.
It was not.
It's traditional land owned by the indigents. So this is very clear. I have prepared a letter to the minister, and I've told him quite politely that he should recognize that the highest court of this nation has passed its final judgment, and even the president of this republic can overturn that judgment. The minister should know that, and yes, Mr. Vice Chancellor, you should rest assured that your land is secured. And all our children, we have space to build of different faculties. I think you want to build a faculty of law in that area, which I support very much. So do not worry about that. The minister cannot take back that land. He cannot appeal the case of the Supreme Court. He cannot appeal the judgment of the Supreme Court.
And the Vice Chancellor then, after the decision of the 2nd, the Vice Chancellor came out with a communique advising people who are on the land to live within, to vacate the area. But persons are still there. Maybe a private letter that was sent to the Vice Chancellor was sent on social media, and we saw it on social media. So many people are relying on that letter to still be on the land.
Now,
That's so
listen, law number 80/2012 1980 regarding illegal occupation of lands is very clear. You have two options. When such a decision has come out to determine that the person on that land doesn't own the land, that person has two options: to vacate any property he has put on the land in terms of crops or houses, or to have those houses or crops destroyed at his or her expense. That's the only two options that exist.
We are going to be following up very closely what's happening there. But let's look at what the decisions that were taken with regards to the CDC lands. What are some of those key decisions?
As we all have learned recently, on the 24th of August 2020, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office wrote to the Minister of Land a very clear letter telling him that, on the instructions of the Prime Minister, head of government, is telling him to cancel Ministerial Order number 97 of 3rd March 2003, which laid out the conditions for surrendering CDC land specifically. So from now onwards, no surrender of CDC lands will occur. In spite of the fact that a similar order had been issued in 2014 by the Minister of Lands on the 18th of July 2018, suspending the surrender of CDC lands. That order was never respected. It was abused. So this new instruction by the Prime Minister raises certain legal issues. One, everybody who has violated the instructions, the ministerial order from 2014 till today, and has appropriated or entered land that belong or occupied by CDC, will have to leave those lands. And any documents of any legal nature that have been given will be annulled and withdrawn and destroyed and cancelled. Now, the Prime Minister also instructed the Minister to propose a new law, a new ministerial order law on how to cede agricultural lands for public uses, public enterprise, public agricultural enterprises, and the process of how to manage those lands more judiciously. Now, I learned also unofficially that there has been a process in place to try to transform the CDC plantations into urban residences for the benefit of some private individuals, not for governments. And behind this cabal, again, these are famous administrators. For example, I learned this afternoon, one chief called me, and to be clear, not all the chiefs are land grabbers. One chief called me and informed me that the land around Manaobe, where 20 hectares of palms were destroyed last week or 2 weeks ago, that the senior divisional officer of FACO is selling land there. When I visited the land in Dongo, where 35 hectares of CDC palms were destroyed, I was informed by people in that area that the senior divisional of FACO also is selling land in that area. These are things we should know, and let the Honorable Prime Minister know that these problems are being engineered by his own administrators in the region.
Yes, but which areas are affected by these cancellations?
18 cancellations. We have all of them here. There are 18 ministerial orders that were issued. Ministerial order number 622 that cancelled the land in Bonadikombo that was surrendered to in care of Chief Esombe Nanyowe David.
Is that Bonadikombo?
My four. That's right. That was cancelled. That involved how many hectares? 11 hectares, 06 acres. We have Ministerial Order 623 that was issued to Lower Nganju village, represented by Mr. Otto Monono, cancelled, 7 hectares. We have Ministerial Order number 624, that all of 28th August, issued to a fake group called Platinum Group, represented by one Mrs. Egbe Ebanga, 34 hectares. An individual.
34 hectares.
Ministerial Order number 625, 23 hectares, issued to that same Mrs. Egbe Ebanga, 34 plus 23 what? 58 hectares. To one individual. We don't know what for. We have another one, 4 hectares, issued to one Mr. Achu Lifu Roland, cancelled. Company is supposed to be a certain group called Neptune Group. Now, FACO land has become land to give to people for their individual use. This land belongs to people of that area. Ministerial Order number 627 to Mr. Awanto Henry. And mark you, none of these are FACO people, huh? Awanto Henry, 20 hectares. Again, Amantu Henry, 20 hectares.
That's
6 to
40
8.
hectares.
Yes. Muliwe indigens, okay? 11 hectares. Those are people who cut down all those palms in Muliwe. Another one, 31 hectares to Chief John Manga William. 49 hectares to John Manga Williams. 20 hectares in favor of Center for Assistance to Destitute Children. We don't know about that. 31 hectares, Chief Kamer Esimbe.
Of which village?
Of this is what village? Chief Kamer Erongo village community.
Yes, this is the village.
Another 31 hectares, Chief Kamer village, or that village. Chief Samuel Lyonga M, 20 hectares of Likoko village, Tiko. 33 hectares to Chief Elive William Kange. What village is this? Lower Wenjoku. Chief Ngale Lyonga, 20 hectares. Markte village community. Chief Njiembanda. Chief Njiembanda died a few years ago in Lisoka. I knew that man of blessed memory. But somehow somebody has applied for land in his name.
And
29 hectares, 56 acres, 03 centuries. Another one, Chief Mwembe Nango. This chief of Tiko, he was given 35 hectares. He cut them all down. But they obtained, all of these cancellations were obtained illegally because the board of directors of CDC they don't know about this. They bypassed the procedure of going through the board of directors of CDC, went through to the network in Yaoundé and obtained these certificates. Now, I'll mention that for the past 2 years, the Tiko community has been in court with this chief, Wayembe Nangon Yome, over 74 hectares that he has misappropriated and sold for his personal interest. Now, these are 18 cancellations that were done. More are going to come. More are going to come. Now, these lands all total 400 hectares. 400 hectares of prime productive CDC land were illegally obtained by these people. And they went promptly and cut down productive palms in these areas, which are worth about at least 1 billion francs to the best of my knowledge now. Now, this is what is happening.
Mr. Ewule, you had something to
say?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that looking at this ministerial, this Secretary General of the Prime Minister's office, he said that all lands, all surrenders, CDC surrender which has not followed the procedure are going to be nullified. And most Cameroonians should know the procedure per the Minister of Lands circular number 008
2014
of 8 August 2014. It states that if the land which was allocated has not been allocated to the indigenes of that village, it has been allocated to non-existing indigenes. That surrender will be declared null and void. That if the purpose of the surrender is changed without prior authorization, that surrender is going to be declared null and void. That a commission is supposed to be set with that involves the commission made up of the senior divisional officer and a board made up of CDC. That CDC is supposed to approve it. If that is not done, it is going to be nullified. That they were going to carry out a field inspection to ensure that there's conformity of occupancy and development of land surrender with regulatory provisions in force and perspective guidelines. So if all of these things have not been respected, because looking at the second point, that any change of purpose of the deed of surrender, I think that is a major problem we have with this surrender. People come up with a roadmap of how the surrender is going to be. You see, they'll talk of community hall, they will talk of hospital, they will talk of schools, playground. At the end of the day, all of this land are being sold to private individuals. And when the lands are sold to private individuals, they go in violation of the purpose for which this land was being applied for. So looking at that, most of I can say 80% of this surrender are going to be cancelled because they have not followed the laid down procedure, like respecting the purpose of the surrender, making sure that the land is given to indigenous. Because as my learned friend is saying here, 90% of the indigenes don't have access to this land surrender. It is only the chiefs. They are given one plot. Go to many of the villages, I don't want to call names here. You go there, how will a chief have 20 hectares or 50 hectares and you give an indigene of that village one plot?
And then you give the
SDO, and then you give the administrators, the SDO, the DO, people of lands, one hectare, two hectares. Go give people in the judiciary. So in such a way that if these persons, these indigenous go and complain, nothing is done to the chiefs because they have settled all the quarter. So it is on this basis that all of these land certificates, all of these land surrender are going to be cancelled, because they are evident to show that the indigenes are not
Yes, Leonard, you see, these interventions we're making here is to educate the public. This issue of land surrender did not begin today. I have before me here the summary of findings and recommendations of the investigating officer and the preliminary observations of the Nigerian government pursuant to the petition from the Bakwe Land Committee in 1946 to the United Nations Trusteeship Council. This is a document named Document TPET 43 of 1948, 15 June 1948. I will quickly read to you these findings and recommendations very briefly. In its paragraph 21, it states here, it is clear, however, that the problem is not entirely or even talking about the issue of surrendering land to the indigents. It's not entirely or even mainly one of land shortage, but that certain underlying social evils are equally responsible for the difficulties of the local inhabitants. That's the Bakwe people, Fako people. Of this, one of the most notable appears to be the breakdown in many areas of traditional control over land used by immigrants. It continues, the result has been an unregulated and excessive influx of immigrants, farmers, which are found to be the principal cause of the local shortages of good land. And the first step in restoring the situation should be to establish satisfactory control. Unless such control could be made effective, the release of more plantation land will merely invite a further influx of immigrants and will bring no permanent benefit to the local inhabitants. Is that what we are seeing today? Okay. This was written in 1949.
Okay, written in 1949. I want us to be clear. Let our televiewers actually understand what we mean by irregularities. You say a cabal bypassed certain aspects and have not respected, or yes, have not respected what was supposed to have been done, but have been issued land. What are some of these irregularities that are very glaring?
The first thing is that the whole notion of land surrender is limited to restoring the land that was illegally seized by the Germans in the 1890s from the inhabitants of Fako, the Bakwe of Fako people. That's the rationale in this process. In 1948-49, the United Nations Trusteeship Council was considering surrendering 15 acres of land to each family in Victoria Division, which is Fako today. 1949, that's the recommendations. So the rationale has always been to correct an evil, an illegality that was committed by the Germans brutally between 1884 and 1895. Up until 1914, when the World War came and the Allies beat the Germans. So that's the first rationale. So if these lands are to be surrendered for the people of Fako, the people of Fako must be the only beneficiaries of this land. The other people who are coming into these lands did not suffer the enormity of the gross inhuman treatment. That
so what did the ministers not respect? What principle? What are some of those things that were not respected by?
If you look at the ministers, the secular cancelling it. If you look at Article 1 says, considering the fact that the land surrender in favor of maybe Bonadikombo village, represented by Chief Esomba Nyome David has not yet been approved by the board of directors of the Cameroon Development Corporation. So the main reason why these 18 land title land surrender have been cancelled, because they were not approved by the board of directors of the Cameroon Development Corporation.
No.
That is for this cancellation. That is the reason why these 18 have been cancelled. But more applications are before the minister, are before the court for cancellation on irregularities that we have raised. Like one, that the land is not handed to native. Like, look at most of the
that's to grow the villages.
Yes, because we are talking of growing the village. If you look at the circular of 008 of August 2014, the minister stated that the expansion of the village should be proportionate. You cannot be talking of a village in my village in my 15 in Buea. You are talking of land surrender, giving land surrender in West Coast.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. You cannot be talking of Lisoka village and they give you a land surrender in Tico. So which expansion are we really talking about? So those are some of the irregularities. We cannot be talking of land surrender. You say the land is meant to build schools, to build hospitals and the rest, and when they give you the land, you sell it to individuals. Those type of land have to be cancelled.
Yeah, but why is the cancellation coming now when we know that lands have been ceded for over 10 years, and we know where the lands are? They have not been used to expand these villages, and seemingly nothing was done over these years.
It baffles me also. But one good thing is that it seems like this government is beginning to listen to us. That's a good thing. When we were here last time, I made specific mention that I hope our dear Prime Minister, who happens to come from the Southwest region, was listening and seeing what is happening. Because what is happening in Fako, it's happening in Meme, it's happening in Dian, it's happening in Kupema Ningumba, it's happening in Manu, it's happening in Lebial, it's happening all over. It's just happening in an egregious manner in Fako. No, Fako is kind of a microcosm of Southwest region, of Southern Cameroon. Okay? But when it happens in Fako, it destroys the rest of North and Southwest region. Now, one thing I can tell you I'm very gratified about is that it seems like the government, through the Prime Minister, is finally listening to us. And that is a very important thing, because this is a potential time bomb for this country, this issue. The use of FACO, the use of Southwest region, the use of Southwest and Northwest region are all being impacted. People are being impacted by the destruction of CDC. And they are not going to sit down quietly and let CDC be killed. Now, just to bring you back to something, like I said, this thing did not begin today. 1947, these things, what Barrister Ule just talked about, were envisioned by the Trusteeship Council recommendations, findings. They say here, the summarized recommendations from that finding of the Bakwe Lands Committee state very clearly that a social welfare unit was to be established in Fako Division to care of the people. That action was to be taken to encourage and increase the number of women resident in the Victoria Division, especially in the plantations. That immigration and settlement of strangers had to be controlled. That a lands office and full facilities for granting and regularizing leases was to be set up in Victoria Division to make sure that land are only leased, not sold out. That an agricultural officer was to be stationed permanently in Victoria Division to help these people in managing these lands agriculturally. That the cooperative officer was to be stationed permanently there. And that the medical officer, all of these things, issues of pollution was addressed, keeping a forestry reserve was addressed. Basically, these recommendations were about ensuring that the cultural, social, economic and political fabric of the Fako people was maintained, was not destroyed.
Okay, Endo Plemus Ake, good evening to you, and to you, Bidi Elango Bidi. We are glad to note you are watching the program. Now, these lands have been cancelled. What was the process? You followed the minister? You've been on his neck all these years?
Well, the minister has received a myriad of complaints from many lawyers, including myself. I have written at least 25 petitions to the minister about illegally obtained lands and land certificates to be cancelled. when he did not respond. Some of them are in court, some are in the process of going to court. But more importantly, I will note that the management of CDC has been on the minister's heels also. Oh yeah, you may not know it publicly, but the general manager of CDC and many of his top staff have been consistently addressing this issue with the Minister of Lands, addressing with the Prime Minister of this country, addressing with the Minister of Territorial Administration, and many other ministries that are involved in the management of CDC. I must remind you that out of the number of, I don't know how many board members are in CDC, 9, 12, at least 8 or 9 of them are represented by ministries. So the general manager of CDC has consistently approached these ministries to warn them about the dangers of this irrational, crazy surrender of land. So combined with that and the public outcry that you are hearing, the sit-up of CDC workers on Moliwe last time, and probably some of our interventions here, has made the government realize that this is a real problem that cannot be neglected any longer. 15 and 20 years is too long. And any more delay may cause irreparable harm, not only to the people of Fako, but to the fabric of the southwest and northwest regions, who all, and many other parts of the country, which depend on CDC.
Okay.
So,
good evening, Mr. Kumlenat. The topic today is very interesting, but unfortunately the images are not the best. Please can the technicians do something? I'm writing from my 18 in Buea. It says, okay, this one says, Mr. Kum, kudos to Barrister Ngongi and Barrister Ule. They have just continued from where Mr. Tambetiku ended following threats to his life. Okay. I don't know what's threatening his life. This one says, Mr. Valerie writing from Yaoundé, the state should stop their administrators from selling natives and community lands. They were sent there to oversee the affairs of their various offices and give reports to Yaoundé. They were not sent there to go and sell lands. Do they have certificates of ownership to sell lands? I mean the administrators. They should halt this system of new colonialism, or else what happened to the day of Bakassi? Okay. Good evening to you. No reason to be threatening lives too. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. To be frank, the Buea chiefs are the most corrupt chiefs I have seen in. They have all been politicians, and all this is because they don't care about their subjects. Let all the Bakurians stand up and defend their lands. Okay. This one is writing from, I don't know, out of the country, from Gabon. Good evening to you. Prince Ekoso writing from Yaoundé, say great job there by both Senior Barrister Komingongi and Barrister Ule Liunga Edward. The Bakuri community will not let anyone turn them around anymore. Okay. Daniel writing from Buea says, my fight against stroke, okay. Say the unconventional methods. I will not read that message. Anya Walters says any message that is not good, I won't read them, please. I won't read it. I think that we need to be civil to everybody. This one says, but I say, Komingongi, God will bless you. Do not give up. Daniel is writing from Buea. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am Kanjo in Buea. I am enjoying the program. God bless the legal mind. Stand tall for justice. Okay. Good evening to you all. I'm George Etoke from Mutengene. My brothers, to me, they should just stop this issue of land surrender, because it is not for the villagers, but to the administrators. Okay. This one says, why are the Bakurians not fighting their chiefs, administrators, and the elites who are selling their land, and fighting those who buy the land genuinely? Peter is also writing from Mutengene. Good, hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening to you, all the panel. I really enjoy your program. May the Almighty God protect you all. Joshua is writing from Kumba. Now, these lands have been cancelled, already allocated. They were already allocated to this to some of these villages, and we know that most of them have been sold. It's a very complicated process.
Yes.
Where a chief has to go through a lot to be able to be allocated this land.
Yeah, it's very complicated, because something that is being received under fraudulent fraudulent circumstances, these are the result. So the person should be able to bear the consequences. Now the chiefs and all the administrators who have engaged themselves in the manipulation, because Mr. Leonard, people, Cameroonians should know how this process is being carried out. People should not think that this thing was done genuinely. These chiefs have surveyors and certain persons who say, okay, you a chief, you want to apply for land surrender. He says yes. He says, okay, I'll take you to the SDO. They start the technical file. They don't pass through CDC. They take money and go to Yaoundé, pay pop, and the land certificate is out. And now they have sold and they have sold. They should pay the consequence. Now the advice I'm giving to them is that they should see how they can refund people's money. They should say they can refund people's money. Most of these chiefs will be taken to court. Most of them will go to jail because the greed and egocentric attitude is something that is unbearable. Because to be honest, Mr. Leonard, CDC have always been like the light when it comes to employment, to Southwestern and Northwestern, and CDC has been considered like the second highest employer in Cameroon. And this is CDC that is going down the drain. And you think that because CDC it embodies the Bakuri man. We see it like what
property,
like what our forefathers left for us. It most of our parents passed through CDC to send us to school, and now CDC is getting towards extinction. Extinction by who? By us, the Bakurians. By us, the Bakurians. We are the one that we are going to bribe administrators so that this land should be given to us. You hear if you watch, you hear of 50 hectares, 60 hectares. So this is a time that it should serve like an example. Let those chiefs, we're advising them to pay back. Let them pay back. They have to pay back the money to those individuals.
Tabot Machiavelli, writing from Yaoundé, says, greetings to you all. The executive arm of the government has rendered the judiciary and the legislative arms limping. All the governors and their DOs are the ones expropriating and dishing these lands to those they prefer. Why? Because it is order from above. Good evening to you, Tabot, from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Only God will continue to bless Senior Barrister Ngongi. He will forever remain a great man. Thank you. Oben Wilson, writing from Buitingi in Buea. This one says, good evening to you all. I am Achaki from Dubai. I wish to ask people who had built on the land for over 15 years, what would they do? What will happen to all those administrators who had sold land? What will a local man do, or what will be the process to acquire land, since the land tenure are also involved in this selling? Barrister, you are very involved in this situation. What happens, especially to the CDC lands that have been given out already?
Like the ministerial order, following the instruction of the Prime Minister, the lands will simply revert back
to the CDC.
To CDC. CDC is the tenant, is the legal tenant of this land. Let me be clear, CDC doesn't own this land. CDC was created for the benefit of the Bakuri people, for the Fako people. I'll read to you. Professor Sanford Betterman, an associate professor of geography in Georgia State College, Atlanta, Georgia, in 1968 published a very important booklet which I just came upon 2 days ago. He states on page 18, talking about CDC, the title of the booklet is The Cameroon's Development Corporation, Partner in National Growth. This is what he states. He came to Cameroon, did research, and this is what he states about CDC. See, the corporation, CDC, was thus set up to develop these ex-enemy plantations not merely for private gain, but for the common benefit of the inhabitants of the territory as a whole. That is very key. Now, CDC was created for the benefit of the inhabitants, not for the private gain of some corrupt administrator or some corrupt chief or some corrupt elite. Now, in 1982, the president of this country issued circular number 003 CAB PR of 8th February 1982. The title it was addressed to the Prime Minister, to the Minister of Territorial Administration, and Minister of Urbanism and Habitat, which is now Minister of State Property. And the title was Acquisition des terrains dominaux municipaux et des parcelles de domaine national. In summary, this circular, this ministerial presidential circular, which has a force of law, is a public policy, prohibited every administrator from acquiring 1 inch of land where they worked. And if you're an administrator who came from the area where you worked, before you acquired an inch of land, you have to get presidential authority. This circular has not been abrogated. It is still enforced today. So all these administrators out there who do not know that what they are doing is illegal should be aware. Recently, I heard that the delegate of state property of Southwest region made a very, I don't know, I will not call it ignorant, but it was a very dangerous statement he made. He said that land surrenders are legal.
Okay, he says they are legal. Good evening, Leo. It's a wonderful
That's
job.
what he said.
Okay, good evening, Leo. It's a wonderful job you and your panelists have done and doing so far. As we speak, maybe because of the ministerial decision today at CDC Clerk's Quarter, Likumba, some individuals have planted pillars adjacent golf yard. Barrister should use investigative this, okay? Also, Andreas is writing from Tico Town. Good evening to you, Andreas. Good evening to you all in the studio. I'm D. Elvis from Yaoundé. I want to appreciate the 2 barristers on panel. God guide them, and they really make me have a positive remark about them too. At least they make me feel some Bakurians are smart. Kudos. Okay. This one reads, good evening, Mr. Liu. We thank God my Media Prime is there for us. It educates us day by day. We really like your program. It is Banta Jude writing from Jakiri. Good evening to you, Banta, writing all the way from, that is in Buea Division. Hello, good evening, Mr. Liu, and all in the platform. Thanks for the program. Julius Peter is writing from Bonaberry. Good evening to you, Peters. Greetings, sir. My regards to you and your panelists. It is the land session is bad, or it's been done the wrong way. Maxima is writing from Buea. Your question is not too clear, but there is also a portion of this land that we are talking about, the land that has not been touched. We saw young palms that were recently destroyed around the Mile 4 area,
yes.
Seemingly not affected by some of these cancellations.
No. Most of these lands that we're talking about today, 400 hectares of the Mile 4, there's one that hasn't been covered yet, and we're going to pursue that. You see, in Moliwe, there have been 2 incidences. One in which some chief of Sase claimed that he had been extended his village from Sase to Moliwe. He took bulldozers there and pulled down the palms and broke up roads.
Yeah, but
that has not yet been attacked.
Yeah, but I was told that land was given to some 2 companies. Yeah?
No. That land is falls under the same ambit of the law as this 18 that was cancelled. So we're going to remind the minister that he omitted, amongst many others, this one in Moliwe, because that land was not properly seeded.
Okay, the 2 companies are Ceded Engineering and Thiel Belsom.
I heard about that.
Let me come in.
Yeah. Let me just talk about this. From my most recent information, we learned that those companies do not even exist. They don't even exist. I bet you, if this land is left for those people, it will be sold out tomorrow, but they will not be sold. That surrender will also be cancelled because it falls within the irregularity that the Prime Minister and the Minister have identified here. It will be cancelled. Yes, please.
Let me just state, you know, the main reason why all of these 18 land surrender was cancelled was because they were not approved by the board of directors of the Cameroun Development Corporation. That particular land at Moliwe now, that a destruction has been done, very serious destruction. And in our African culture, we know as a matter of fact that if your mother or anybody plants crops which is growing, you don't destroy it. If you destroy it, it is like you have gone against our own African culture that Nemesis will follow. That particular land, Mr. Leona, the state approached CDC that they wanted to make a stadium at that place. So the state now gave them that piece of land, but during the
CDC gave
CDC gave the land to the state that they wanted to make a stadium, the state stadium which is now at Kmer. The state wanted to make the stadium at that place. So after feasibility studies, they saw that the area was marshy, and so they said they could not use that particular site. So they asked for another site. CDC now gave them the present site where the stadium is in Kmer. They now went and constructed at that site. Now, CDC now came back to occupy this portion which it had given to the state, which the state has not occupied. The state said no, CDC had already given them the land. So, and if you look at the law is very clear that if CDC gives a land to a particular, if you look at all of these arrêtés, it will tell you that the land reverts as leasehold land of the Cameroon Development Corporation. So if CDC had given them the land and they had not used the land, CDC gave them another land which they have used to open the stadium. CDC just came back and occupied this land. They said no, CDC had to follow due process by writing to the state to say they wanted to take the land, and that is what senior counsel is saying, that particular land.
But something's not right here. Okay, don't we see the state fighting the state? Is it the state that is actually fighting the state, or we have individuals?
There's the state, but there are people within the government who are using the accoutrement of the government, the power of the government, for their personal benefits. In this particular issue that Bryce Wule talked about, I have seen the letter from the Minister of Sports, Youth and Sports, asking CDC to take back their land, that they will not use it. I've seen that letter. Okay. The minister wrote to the CDC, because we cannot use that land, please take it back. Thank you for the other land you're giving us. But of course, there's a cabal within this government which has privatized and captured the state as their personal property. And they are using the power of the government in such an egregious manner for their personal benefit. That's what is happening. Let me tell you something. One day I received a client in my chambers. He had bought land in Kmer, where you have the stadium, 2,041 square meters. He brought the site plan to me and told me, Barrister, I came from America to get my land. I could not find it. I went to my files. I pulled up applications for land certificates in 2013 or 14. The name on the application was Zang 3. The former SG of Limbe, of blessed memory. 2,041 hectares. And the man told me that on the day he was paying for that land, 8.3 million francs, somebody came from the SGO's office to collect the money. But you will not see any trace of a sale by the SGO. The chief of that village sold the land for the SGO. This is what has been going on. They misuse their power and their authority that is given by the state to grab land. And the penal code of Cameroon is very clear. Public officials who abuse their authority for their private benefit especially are punishable under the law.
Okay, hello guys, I want to say good evening and kudos to the job you guys are doing out there. This one says good evening, I like your TV program, thank you very much. Good evening Mr. Liu, thanks for your support to keep the CDC land, may God bless you, it's brilliant. Writing from Buea. This one says Abitacha from Limbe, Bota. God bless you, Mr. Liu, and Barrister Ewule, and Senior Barrister. More strength. Oh, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please ask Barrister Ikomi if the chief of Mondoni and Modica is safe for the land around Tole Gate after Mungo Bridge. Is it safe or CDC property? Eku is writing from Yaoundé. Good job to save our land. Okay. I'm sure they're going to answer you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love the program by Manolis, writing from Bel Air. Bel Air, is it in America? Hello, good evening. I love your program by Killian, writing from Ndop. Good evening to you. Good evening to you all. Mr. Liu Barisangongi and his brother in the panel. We are strongly praying for you people. All the houses that they have built on CDC land, let bulldozers destroy it. Mr. Eta writing, this one says, je t'appelle to oops. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Apart from CDC land grabbing here in Mutengene next to the CDC, along the Mutengene Ombe route, there are one Mr. Buea Litake who just destroyed my mother's maize farm few days ago, building houses as his palace. That it's his village called Moganjo. He has been disturbing since 2015, and the administrators in Tiko are working with him. The threat, the problem is not happening with the CDC, and the Muteng and the parents are helpless with the man's attitude. Greetings, Barisangongi. Benz is writing from Mutengen. Good evening. Once I call on the Indian natives should shine their eyes. I heard a story of a certain administrator sharing and selling vast lands in Dian. Okay, Mr. Leo, good day. We have, inshallah, our lands has gone. Thanks for the barrister. Okay, Kmer is writing from Bonduma. Okay, barrister. Now, let me assume that somebody is affected by what is happening, maybe from one of these villages affected, who is a victim and approaches you.
Yeah.
What would you advise them?
Let me start from the beginning. The ex-enemy lands Cameroon Ordinance of 1946, number 38 of 1946, had amongst some of its terms that the governor, upon acquisition of the lands, the enemy property that were seized from the Germans by the British, was to declare them native lands, and that they were to be held by him for the use and common benefit of all the inhabitants of the territory. That's very clear. All those lands that were seized from the Germans who stole them from the people of Fako were to be held in trust for the people of Fako by the governor of Nigeria, who was acting as the manager of the trust territory of the United Nations. Okay? Now, what happened after that in January 1947, in which a 60-year lease was issued to CDC after its creation through the Cameroon Development Corporation's Ordinance number 39, again of 1946, was that CDC was given a lease, a long-term lease, to manage this property for the benefit of the people of Fako. In the document they talk about Bakri people, but there are other sub-tribes also in Fako. So I prefer to use the word Fako. Now, if a lease is in the control, a tenant is in control or in occupation of the property, that tenant cannot turn around and sell that land. He can even sublet the land without the authority of the landlord. Now, if that land, which is a leasehold, is sold, that sale will be illegal. In fact, you cannot create a freehold out of a leasehold. It's impossible in law. So every piece of land that is occupied by CDC, that was granted out to communities, which were sold to third parties and granted land certificates, were illegally sold, and the land certificates will be declared null and void. The sad answer I will give to any client who comes to me, I will tell them, I'm sorry, that land will revert back
To CDC.
to the lessee, CDC. CDC will hold it and manage it until the Bakri people are returned their property. That's simple. So if you have paid money to a chief or to an administrator or to any Jemaksher who falsely made you believe and induced you to buy land that was not supposed to be sold, go and look for that person now and get back your money.
So, sir, just to add that, if you look at the law, the 1974 law, it's people think that CDC is state land.
It's not.
It's not state land. It's private land. Because if you look at 1974 Article 2, subsection 5,
That's E. Yeah.
subsection E, it states that all
land which are found in the Grand Book.
That's right. That are registered in the Grand Book.
Which are registered in the Grand Book are private land.
And what lands are registered in the Grand Book?
And what lands are registered in the Grand Book? The CDC lands are registered in the Grand Book.
Yeah.
So if CDC lands are registered in the Grand Book, it means that they are private land.
Absolutely.
And who are those owners of the private land? The people of Fako. So
the native land.
Please, that is why, Mr. Lo, that is why during the Bakwe land claim case, the Bakwe land claim committee took the case to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. The case was thrown out that they did not exhaust all local remedies. But the commission told the state of Cameroon, go and negotiate with these people. Go and negotiate, because they have a good case. The only problem that the case is inadmissible is because they have not exhausted all local remedies. Go and negotiate with these people. Instead of the state of Cameroon to come back and negotiate and have a meeting with the Bakwe people to see how they could start reverting their land, they did not do that. They came back, sat in Yaoundé, and decide on the issue of ceding lands to individual chiefs in such a way that when they cede the land to the chief, they have their own share. That was this. The fight of the Bakwe Land Claim Committee was not that land should be given to chiefs in such a way that chiefs can sell 10 hectares of land and give the indigenous one plot. That was not the intention of the Bakwe land claim case. The land claim was that the land should be managed in such a way that it will benefit the people of Fako. Okay, and that's not what we are getting.
Okay, just one thing I'd like to clarify, Leonard. Over the years, I've heard people talk about the state owning lands. Yeah. All this is owned by the state. With all due respect, the state doesn't own land. The only lands that the state can own is land that it has expropriated for public use.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. My regards to the panelists. My question is, I understand we have administrative courts in all regional headquarters, but I'm here to know any administrator that has been dragged in any of these courts and be persecuted. On the other hand, their excesses are too much. Okay, I'm sure Barrister is going to say something on that. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thank you for this wonderful program. This is going to help clarify most Cameroonians. Please, I will the barristers to clarify us about some of the CDC lands in Mutengene. Edwin is writing from Mutengene. This one says, hailing you once again, Leo. Prime R is yielding great results. Kudos to the two barristers on my media prime as a whole. Andreas is writing from Tico. Greetings, sir. The land issue is terrible. Think of that's why some people bribe deals to enthrone them as chiefs so as to seize advantage to grow rich. Thank you. Roland is also writing from Tico. Good evening. I'm Samdara writing from Mutengene. I want to appreciate Barrister Ngongi and Barrister Liunga Ewule for the job they are doing to save the CDC. Okay, good evening to the crew who is to blame on the illegal and land grabbing from the CDC, the chiefs or the CDC officials. Emma is writing from Buea. Let me also read most of your messages because there are so many. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Ludwig writing from Limbe. Thank you so much for this program. Please, we need a barrister to know that Etome village land has been sold by one family. Okay, barrister. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Elder Clifford from Motowo Quarter Limbe, and I do appreciate the effort of the two barristers on the panel. Fako administrators are grabbing Fako lands and in support with some chiefs. Hi. Good evening. It's Israel from Bamenda. Want to say I'm enjoying the program. Thank you so much. This one is Zama from Victoria. Wonderful panel. Great information that has to be documented for posterity. Okay. This one is Mr. Willie writing from Kumba. Tell the barrister that if he finished with Fako, he should come to Kmer. Thank you for a job well done. Okay, barrister has gotten you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is Engo Bernard. I love your program. Keep up. Okay, thank you very much. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and to everyone. Your program is really interesting. It's Nathan writing from Kumba. Good evening, all. We thank you people for the unique topic for discussion. Please make it work. Chantal is also writing from Kumba. Good evening to you in the house. Please tell us something about land grabbing and sales in Mutengene. Terence is writing from Mutengene. Mutengene, people really want to hear something about their
I'll talk
lands.
about that.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is Eric writing from Kumba. I like your topic. Thank you very much. But before you come in on the issue of Mutengene, no, you guys are citing laws, ordinances, presidential orders, which you say are policies on these lands. The chiefs are enthroned they're enthroned by divisional officers, SDOs for yeah. Are the chiefs unaware, ignorant of all of this?
Leonard, the chiefs can only be enthroned by the kingmakers of the villages where they come from, not by the DOs or SDOs. And what has been happening since this cabal started stealing Fako lands is that the DOs and SDOs have been electing chiefs. The case in Mutengene is one issue in point. I wrote a very detailed petition to the Minister of Territorial Administration about that when the Mutengene population came to me. They elected the chief who did not qualify to be a chief. Last month, we filed a suit in the administrative court to cancel the land certificates of 46 hectares of land that were surrendered between Bibob Market in Mutengene and the Ombe. That's what the one of the viewers talked about. Why? Because, number one, after this current SDO conducted an election to put on a chief who was not a chief, brought up people from other villages to elect him, to vote for him, this chief has not yet been homologated. But you know what the SDO did of Fako? He gave him an attestation of chief. Have you ever heard that anywhere, that you can give somebody an attestation that is a chief?
So you
can use the attestation to sell the land. And that is exactly what this chief is doing, or this chief in quotes is doing. You see, it is all calculated, and I think we cannot say it loud enough. As a result of the petitions we wrote to the Minister of Territorial Administration, and kudos to him, he suspended all chieftaincy issues in Fako.
Yeah.
He did. Mr. Taganji, God bless you for that. He suspended all chieftaincy issues in Fako division, specifically because of the complaints he has received from many of us. The same thing happened in Livanda village, where a boy whose father is a Biobio man from Nigeria was made a chief, again by the DO and SDO of this place, so that he can take land and give him. When I sued,
we are going to come to that. Sure. In the next 10 minutes, we are going to look at this chieftaincy issue.
Okay.
But my issue is: are these chiefs unaware of what you guys are saying here?
How can they be unaware?
They are not aware. How we say they are not aware? They are aware. They are aware. They are aware because they are part of this cabal. You know, our chiefs are supposed to be apolitical. You look at our chiefs, they are supposed to be apolitical, they have to be in any party, because as a chief, you have to receive everybody, be you CPDM, be you whatever party. But all of our chiefs now are members of the ruling party. And that is a problem that we have. And looking at the law, the 1974 law that says chiefs are auxiliaries of the administration, they now see themselves as administrators, and so they must take instructions either from the DO or the SDO, and they forget to protect the interests of their community, and that's exactly what is happening.
And if I may add, many of these chiefs who act with impunity believe that they will be protected by the administrators.
Of course.
They believe so, but believe me, the courts are working.
Of course.
You know, there's one chief who is encroaching on CDC land in Moliko. The matter is in the court, in the administrative court. Last August, we obtained an injunction from that same court to stop him and any other person from entering that land. He has violated that injunction more than 20 times. He keeps going out there, planting pillars, selling land, building houses. We have been on the chief of Bomaka, I think his name is Eko Kombe.
Okay.
Yes. We have been unable to get the forces of law and order, the judiciary, to impose, to enforce that injunction.
Okay, no, that is a situation.
It's a very serious thing.
18 cancellation decisions taken by the Minister of Land. What happens next? Yes.
One last. I want to say that people are saying, "Oh, barrister, go on. Oh, barrister Ngongi, barrister." This is not a fight of barrister Ngongi or barrister Ewule.
That's right.
This is a fight for the entire people of Fako. The entire people. Barrister Ngongi just told me this afternoon that a lawyer who is from Northwest, a Northwesterner, called him over the phone and said, "Barrister, what you are doing, I am planning to join you."
That's right.
But our own people in Fako, they are not joining us. We are calling for all our parliamentarians. We are the one who voted them there. They should come and join us in this fight. We are calling on all our senators. If Fako, let them join us in it. We are calling on all of our elites, Mulam Mosonge, all of them, Manadi Faka, let them join us in this fight. Because if CDC carries everything about us, so we cannot leave CDC to die because this go to all the CDC lands now. They have cut down all the bananas. There are no bananas again in Moliko. All the bananas have been destroyed. People are now unemployed. There is no CDC again in the whole of Buea. There is no CDC again. So this is not a fight that will leave it to Baikangongi. We are calling on Mulam Mosongi. We are calling on all the senators. Absolutely. We are calling on all the elites, all our ministers. This is a fight that all of us must come on board. We are calling on all the lawyers. We should not leave Mulangongi alone. We should not leave Basa Ewule alone on this fight. It's a fight for all of us. Even the CDC workers. I was very pleased when I saw CDC workers coming out in their numbers and say that they want to send them out of their livelihood by destroying CDC. And I saw some Bakure boys standing very tall. And this is a time that we should not just shy behind. Let us come. I'm using this platform to say that we should call for an emergency Fako meeting, that all Fako elites and everybody will come on board and we address issues that concern us. And one of the first issues that concern us is our land.
Okay, is the CDC now? This is going to be happening, like he like saying. But what should be done so that the chiefs and those who have bought land learn a lesson from what is happening?
Before I answer your question, I cannot but help to thank my younger brother, Barrister Ewule here. You see, since I came back home and I started fighting this fight, I've been alone. It has been a very lonely journey for me. For the first time, I have a true-blooded Fako citizen who has joined me in this fight. And you know, people are criticizing him. He says, I am SDF. This fight is not about SDF or CPDM or MRC. This fight is about the very existence of Fako people. And it's important that, yes, our Fako people should understand that.
Yeah, but the CDC is, it is true, it is in Fako. But
and it involves the whole of the country.
The CDC is something that is national.
Yes, it impacts the whole of the country. But the people who suffer most
Are the Fako
are the Fako people. Now listen, if Fako people are dispossessed of their land, where would they go? Where will you carry them and put them in? The people who are coming to Fako land can go back to their villages. That's the difference. So while it impacts the whole country, yes, and mostly North and Southwest region, mostly, but the whole country, the Fako people have the primary responsibility. This land that we are fighting about belongs to them. It belongs to them for Christ's sake.
So the CDC is playing that role of conservator for their land.
If you ask me, yes. I prefer that this land should stay in the hands of CDC than in the hands of irresponsible chiefs who turn around and give it out. Oh yes. We thank God for CDC. If CDC had not been there, probably we should all be looking for places to stay in Fernando Po or Marua, someplace. Oh yes.
Now, but what is the implication? The lands have been ceded back to the CDC, but crops have been destroyed.
Well, we are instituting criminal charges.
Okay.
I will let you know that we're instituting criminal charges against anybody who has destroyed CDC property. Wanton destruction over illegalities. First of all, those land surrenders that they obtained were fraudulently obtained.
Yeah.
So there's fraud, there's wanton destruction of a monumental level. Let me tell you, in Manoa Bay, the CDC area manager of Obota told me that the value of those crops that were destroyed was at least 386 million francs. Okay. If you add that with the 15 hectares in Moliwe and the 35 hectares in Dongo, in Tico, it comes up to about 1 billion francs. Now, CDC needs this money to pay its workers. It needs this money to feed thousands of workers who work with them. It needs this money for the development of Cameroon. And a few individuals take upon themselves to destroy, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, but since this decision, have you been on ground to observe, talk with some of the people, and what are they saying?
People are totally incensed. I'm telling you that there's a climate of fear, like Barrister Willis said, that has gripped many Cameroonians. And these people who are stealing the lands are using the cloak of this civil war that is going on, knowing that people are focused on this, to use the minds, because this is intellectual destruction. They sit in their offices and fabricate documents to steal lands. They believe that people will not be seeing what is happening. And the rate at which it has happened in the past 3 to 4 years has been faster than any other time in the history of CDC. Because they know that the focus of the administration of this country is on the war. They are going behind the scenes to that. But let them know that wars are fought at different levels. While they are fighting a physical war, this destruction of CDC is another form of warfare. Unfortunately, this is being carried on by individuals against the country. Individuals who are supposed to protect the interests of the country are fighting against the country.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Kum, and the panel with our able senior Barrister Ngongi. Please, my question is, what about the native lands that some of the chiefs are fighting for recognition? Thanks. Jude is writing from Buea. Good evening, Mr. Leo. There is one selling land which is not CDC land, but the place is called Esuke. Crops have been destroyed, and he says he's the chief. Please, Barrister, what is not a CDC land, because the barrister is aware of the said area?
Yes, I'm aware of the said area. There's a fellow called Buea who is being brought by the GO of Tico. Before it was Chair, who has been transferred to the Bombari or somewhere, and now it's Songwe. They are working Buea.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. To steal that land and distribute amongst themselves.
Good evening, Prime. Perhaps the two barristers have not been given their own share of land. That is why they are crying. I'm not sure.
Tell that fellow that he's being silly.
Barrister Ngongi has been fighting on this for a very long time.
Yeah. I am a prince of my 15. I have the person should know that I am a prince of my 15. I have nothing less than 20 to 30 hectares. That is my ancestral land. My grandfather was a chief. I'm a prince of my 15. So I don't need land from any chief. I don't need any land surrender from anybody. Okay. There is a Bamiliki guy that has been given 20 hectares in my 15, and we are by the administrators in Buea.
They have no authority.
They gave, how you give an individual, a Bamiliki man, they call him Norman George, 20 hectares of land.
Okay, Mr. Leo, the program is so wonderful, and it's time for the people of Fako to stand up and stop this land grabbing ills. It's evil. Elder Clifford is writing. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Is Sheko writing from Barombi. I like your program today. Thank you very much. Good evening. It's Ekuri Emmanuel from Tico Douala Road. Mind you, CDC land is not found only in Fako. What is taking place in Fako is also extended to all areas owned by the CDC. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please ask Barrister Ikomi if the chief of Mondoni and Modika are safe for the land around the toll gate. Okay. Echo is still writing from Yaoundé. Barrister, please, we are all behind you. Call the meeting urgently. Okay, good evening. There is one so-called chief now in Tico claiming to be chief of Ikange, collecting money from people that a land around the slaughterhouse has been surrendered him. Let the authorities see something. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Aaron from Kumba. I really love your program because it educates a lot. Thank you very much. This one says, good evening. My name is Jefta Ekunta from Yaoundé. I like your program. It is very interesting. I like the man of the... Okay. Good evening to you all on the panel. Please kindly tell our senior barrister to help us in Mutengene because our children will not have land 2 years to come. Tata is writing from Mutengene. Good evening. It's Ita Man from Newtown. I'm happy with the program today. Thanks. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the barrister on panel. God bless you all. Please, this topic is very worrisome to us in Mutengene. I said chief who claims he owns all the lands from Mobile to Ombe River and has been terrorizing our poor mothers, destroying their crops. Please, what should we do? Clovis is writing from Mutengene. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am overwhelmed with my brothers on set. This is a clear testimony that the Bakuri man is courageous and the most learned in southern Cameroons. I am glad with you in particular to get them on set to clarify the ignorant population of Fako. Thanks a million. I am Hamza. Good evening to you, Hamza. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I love the program. Barrister Ngongi and Barrister Wule are God sent to liberate Fako land. Mr. Ben writing from Buea. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Eric from Loom. I have been listening to your program for close to 6 months now. I must say this is the best debate program I have ever followed on TV. Keep up. Thank you very much. Greetings to Mr. Kum. God bless you and your panelists. Francis is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you in the house. I really love this educative program because the two barristers are educating me on things about land tenure. I greatly appreciate you all. Keep up. My media prime, a combo. Maximilian writing from Fiangu in Kumba. This one says, if CDC was created for the benefit of Fako people, then in my opinion it wouldn't have been named a Cameroon Development Corporation but a Fako Development Corporation. Emmanuel Tashi writing from DOP. Courage to you guys. I admire what you guys are doing. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I really love your program. It's Liunga Desmond writing from Kombone Bakundu. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu and the two barristers in the studio. The topic is very interesting because the administrators are using some chiefs who have no conscience to benefit themselves while the real villagers are suffering. More grace to Barrister Ngongi's able. God will guide you, sir. Mark Fish writing from mile 4 in Limbe. Stop calling, please. We can't take any call. For the 20 minutes that are left, I want us to talk about our last topic, which has to do with who is thwarting the making of chiefs in most of our villages in Cameroon. Senior barrister, you know what should happen. Are you very comfortable with the way chiefs are made around Cameroon? For example, I've assisted in I'm sure I assisted at the consultative talks for the making of the paramount chief of Buea. It's been dragging for so long. I have been following very closely what is happening in Buea and a host of others. What is not right with the making of some of the chiefs in the southwest and the northwest regions?
I cannot speak very much for the Northwest region, although I lived there for more than 7 years as a student. I do not know the intricacies of, but I can talk for the Southwest, but particularly I can talk for
Fako. Okay.
The phrase is that there's too much intervention and interference by the administrators.
Okay.
The administrators have tried to make themselves chief makers.
Okay.
In a culture where chiefs are chosen by kingmakers within the community. If we remove the administrators from interfering with the process of chieftaincy, we shall have some sanity in the division. That is the main problem we have. And of course, as you have seen over the course of our debate, most of these interventions and interferences by the administrators has only one purpose: to grab land through the chiefs. You see, if a chief doesn't apply for land, no administrator can take the land. Of course, some of them have grabbed land in GRA and some of those places illegally through false allocation letters issued by the SDO. But the primary cause of concern now is the vast acreages of lands that are being really stolen through the machination of administrators using the chiefs and some elites. If you remove the administrators from this equation, you have some sanity in the community. Because the process of chieftaincy went on smoothly until administrators got involved. In Tako, where I come from, chiefs are not elected. There's a process of kingmakers deciding who should be chief from the chieftaincy family. But now, the administrators have come in, and if a chief can bribe councillors 200,000 francs each and pay the DO 1.5 million francs, he can conduct an election and creates a chief. We have seen that all over the place. Now, that is the main problem we have now, and it's important that this government takes cognizance of that. One of the things is that the Minister of Administration, following a lot of petitions we have written, has taken cognizance of that and suspended the process of chieftaincy in Fako until this whole thing is corrected. I hope they can consult genuine Fako people who know about the process so they can advise the government to make sure that these administrators do not interfere in the chieftaincy process in Fako any longer. That's the main problem.
Okay, Barrister Ewule, what, according to you, is the core problem? Is it the members of the traditional council or the kingmakers or the chiefs themselves who allow for some of these things to happen for reasons that some of us may not know?
That is, when I look at what is happening in Fako and what is happening in other places like in Bamenda, you see it's a sharp contrast, because in Bamenda no administrator can go and impose a chief in Bamenda. There they are in Mancon, in all those places, you cannot go there and you make as if immediately as the chief dies, you nobody even knows that the chief is dead. You only hear that the chief is missing, and then you see the enthronement, you see the strict traditional processes being respected, and the other chief is being enthroned. You see that their custom is still being watertight, but that is not the case when it comes to Fako, because of, I don't know whether there's a lot of modernization and the rest. We have, our culture is out of place, and now because of the weak, I can say the Fako people, we don't have our tradition of the tradition of the Bakwere man is no longer there. It has been destroyed. That is why you see, and the corruption in the land grabbing issue has made because there are two main reasons. Our traditional values have been destroyed completely. Senior Bezangongi here can tell us how chiefs used to be enthroned in those days, but that's not the case now. Now you see that it is the SDO or the DO who designate a chief. Look at what is happening in Munya. Up till now, we cannot get a chief elect in Munya because the SDO has gone there twice, and he goes there. We hear that he goes there, he cannot, he goes back. Up till now, we don't have a paramount chief in Buea. It's a shame that the finest of the paramount chief that that the Fako people ever had has not been replaced. Chief Eneli has not been replaced. So you see the vacuum, and it's because of what? Of this infighting, the interference. This person goes and give money to the SDO, the other person goes and give money to the SDO, and the SDO is caught in the web, and he doesn't know who to elect. And because of the fact that in Bakwere it was the kingmakers, now you go to a place like Munya, they will tell that it's a problem as choosing the kingmakers.
You even have non-Bakwere people
get involved in choosing non-Bakwere people getting involved in choosing the Bakwere chief. And you go to most villages, the chiefs there are being imposed
on the community
by the administrators because they want to
get land,
take part in the sale of land. And that is a problem that we have. So if the Bakwere people need to come together and say no to this, there are many villages now that exist that when that had never been in existence in Fakou?
Recently, though, I had confirmation that such a village actually existed. There is a village where consultative talks are held in Fakou called Tiko Douala village.
You see, Tiko Douala village. These are some of the things we are talking about. Tiko Douala village. Yes. So that is the problem.
You know. No, I'm coming. The messages are just so many people. Let me read some of them. Good evening, Mr. Leo Baristas. We have been waiting for this moment. Please extend your tentacles to Batoke, Bakingili, and Jonji villages, West Coast Tanks. Jassa is writing from Limbe. Okay. This one says, I thank you. No, this one you're writing of to Madame Kawala. Madame Kawala was here yesterday. This one says, and they are working with this. Okay, you see, it is Mr. Hamilton, a farmer in Ombe. That is a chief court who claimed to have all the lands from Mobile to the sea, disturbing poor farmers and widows who have land in Ombe, Mutengene, and okay, he is disturbing people crops. Okay, actually, they have sent me pictures. They have sent pictures to that. There are so many messages.
This particular one of Motengele, I should talk to something about. It's very important.
Okay.
May I, Leonard?
Just go on.
You see, a couple of years ago, I owned land in a place called Isuke in Motengele, which I bought in 1986.
Okay.
A year or two ago, I went there to see my land. I heard that somebody had entered the property. When I arrived there, this fellow they call Boalitake called soldiers. Two soldiers came there with guns. One of them is Adjutant 1. They cocked their gun and were ready to shoot us and said they will shoot us and say we are Amber Boys. When I asked him who gave me authority, he told me the DO of Tiko knew he was there. I'm telling you this, when they talk about Boalitake, it's not Boalitake. Boalitake is being protected by members of the administration.
Okay.
That should be known.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I just wanted to thank our barristers for a job well done. I wish, apart from land grabbing issues, let's look for the day to discuss how CDC workers' salaries will be paid. We are tired on the management putting us more pressure to work without salaries. Thanks. Peter is writing from Tiko. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I really love your program. It's Jerry Meswe writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Pandis. I salute your people's courage. Keep up. I know chiefs and administrators will not stand behind you, big people, but the common man will. Our chiefs in the southwest have lost their respect. Enoch Clovis is also writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Derek from Mile 1, Kumba. Your program is so educative and your panelists are really dishing the right stuff on land issue to the community. They should keep up. Okay, this one says, moderator, help me salute my brother. It's only in southwest such things happen. You can go other regions and find out that this song is writing from Buea. Barisa, keep up with that. We need people like you in southern Cameroon. Only here, those showing their power. Okay. Good evening, sir. I really love your program, and I pray the Lord should protect those barristers. Elizabeth is writing from Pondo. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu. My name is Tabi Charlie Tabot. I like this program. I don't even know what they are doing with the money. Since the government is ceding part of CDC land to the indigenes of Buea, they should also cede part of Sodipa land in Jakiri to the Nso people. That land was taken from the Nso man by the Germans. Nzinze is writing from Yaoundé. Mr. Liu, good evening. I'm learning a lot from the barristers in your panel. Kudos to them. We are praying for them for God preservation, because we know how this country do things. Ashu is writing from Buea. Good evening to all. I pray may God Almighty continue to give you all the strength to work the good job. I just want to give a complaint about my village, Butingi. In Bonavada area, the village has been given a new layout since 2014. Since to date, the chief has refused to share the land to the villagers. My brothers, tell me what kind of country we are building. I'm Justin. I'm writing from Kumba. Good evening to everyone in the studio. We need people like barristers to open up some details, even where people FACO are managing. It's really bad. Where are we driving to? Thanks, Johnson. Mr. John is writing from Buea. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the law minds. The chiefs and some government officials are only out to sell lands, but the money in their pockets to feed their families. Callistus is writing from Buea. Maxima says, greetings to the barristers. The senior counsel asks a heartbreaking question. When the Bakuri people are disposed of their land, where would they run to? Let the elites of FACO look at what is happening in South Africa and Zimbabwe. Okay, hello, good evening, my Mr. Leonard and all there. It's an important topic and so interesting. Keep it up. It's also Elvis writing from Akum, small London. Okay, that is in Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. How I wish we had people like Barrister Ngongi in Barrow Village in Gutsi subdivision, where our chiefs have sold 10,000 hectares of land to a single individual. May God help us. Nessie is writing from Tico. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am Breeze from Buea. Please, I will say the government make a big mistake for giving the new layouts now for the chiefs. Now, most of them say they are IDPs just to make some money and forget some of the family members. Okay. Oops, the messages are. Now, since we are talking about these chiefs, what should be done to arrest the situations in FACO, since you see that is what you master? What should be done to ensure that these chiefs, because I'm sure that chiefs are supposed to be selected, enthroned by the kingmakers, and then the administration is just presented?
It is not such a difficult thing. Remove the administrators from meddling in chieftaincy issues. They are the problem. Before 1961, before there was no Cameroon government, as we know it today, for hundreds of years, people have had their system. Why do you want to come and destroy it? Remove these administrators from meddling in FACO issues, in Southwest issues, in any issue that deals with traditional values. First of all, most of these administrators do not come from the area.
They don't.
They don't know anything about the tradition of FACO people. They come from South region, from West region, and other places. Their only interest is to fill their pockets with ill-gotten money. They should remove administrators from dealing with chieftaincy issues. The 1977 law of chieftaincy should be revised. I'll be ready to work with the government to make sure that we get a proper version of that law done, so that administrators have nothing to do with chieftaincies. That's a traditional institution that should be tampered with. It's a way of destroying the fabric of our society, and they're succeeding. It must be stopped. Unless, Barrister Irule says something here that's very important. We need to have an all-FACO conference.
Very fast.
And eventually an all-Southwest conference, because like somebody from your audience said,
it's not
only FACO. I talked with the paramount chief of Bafos a couple of weeks ago. He admits that that problem is in Kmer. In Jian, I've talked with people there. That problem is in Jian. In Kupe Manungubaba, I've talked with my friends there. That problem exists there. In Manu, exists there. In different degrees, but the problem exists. In fact, if you go to Mabanda Junction today in Kumba, all the way to Bachua Kagwe, most of that land is being sold to non-indigents. It's been bought by people who have money. Yeah. That's land grabbing, because they know the value of that road. Like I said in my previous things, one of the reasons that FACO is being invaded is because of the strategic location.
That's true.
And the FACO people must take cognizance of the fact that they have been given a wonderful jewel, a wonderful gift by God. And if they waste it, they'll be punished for it. Just like the story of the man who had talents and gave his 5 servants. The servant who did not use the talent well lost it. So let FACO people know that they have a last chance now to salvage FACO by standing up as one. Forget about party affiliations. Forget about your differences as individuals. If the whole clan disappears, you as an individual will also disappear.
Mr. Liu, I just want to add that the present Geo of Buea, Mr. Abba Abdurrahman, he has understood the fact that let the villagers, let the chiefs go and carry out the chieftaincies of the various villages. It happened in my village in my 15 during the
during the enthronement of my brother, Chief Eule Ifande in my 15. The DO did not come. No representation of the DO was there, no administration. He said when it comes to enthronement of a chief, it is something that should be left for the villager, for the chiefs. So it was just the chiefs that were there. And I pray that other chiefs should, other administrators in other places should learn from this. The highest problem we have had in Fako was caused by the former DO for Buea. The former DO, Paul. He's the one who have put all the fake chiefs that you have as far as Buea is concerned. Right. So I'm happy with the new divisional officer that is on sit down. I think that he has understood. He is a man from the north. He understands what it means by the people choosing their leader and the chiefs or the traditional rulers of that area enthroning their colleague, and that is and I think that is okay. But the problems in most villages, they have called Jonji village, we don't have a chief there. They have called Munya, we don't have a chief. Munya, we don't have a chief. We have called all the there, they are not chiefs. So we pray that these issues must be handled.
I will tell you about Jonji village because I'm counsel for them. Jonji village, they have refused to enthrone the chief elector. Because he has refused to endorse the land that have been grabbed by some administrators in the area. So these administrators have said until he comes play ball with them, they will not make him a chief. His brother died more than, I don't know, 5-8 years ago, but till today they have refused to make him a chief. I know the case. In fact, you have some of the agents of these administrators who have carved out large acres of CDC land in that area, in Dibuncha. 32 hectares and 10 hectares and so on. This is what is happening.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kuman, to all the panelists. Please, this is a general fight as the CDC land issue concerns all the Anglophones, saying that CDC does not just benefit those from Fako, but us all. Let's not allow these outside administrators come and run things and continue setting all the confusion we are witnessing now. Peter is writing from Buea. Good evening, my brothers. I love your program. On Nongene Bushfaller in Kumba. Congratulations to Barrister Ngonge and Barrister Ewule. May God protect you all. People like Dr. Endeli and others should be jubilating in their graves. Now, Mula was writing from Buea. Good evening, sir. I enjoy your program. Prince, writing from Buea. Good evening to you, Prince. This one says, land where this is an injunction order, but Mr. Mboaki building without no authorization by the SDO and the DO in support of this act. Please hear our cries. Okay. Good evening, panelists. A very good topic. No one should blame the government because only the people have sold their rights, because they even allow the government to tell them how to rule their people. Okay. Banga Gabriel, while writing from Douala. Courage to you guys in the panel. This is the best program I have ever followed on my Media Prime. Vincent is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu and your crew. Thanks for the educative and entertaining program. God will continue to bless you. Lino writing from Kumba. Okay. We have to end here. The messages are just so okay. Yes, your last word.
Yes, I just want to first of all start by congratulating the General Manager of CDC, Mr. Franklin Njie, for the wonderful work he has done. It's a wonderful success to have over 400 hectares of land recovered for the corporation, and it's something that the government should congratulate him for a work well done. He should continue in that spirit, and he should know that we are strongly behind him because it's our Fako land. Secondly, I want to tell all the Fako indigenes, our Fako elites, that if we don't stand up against this ill of our land being grabbed by non-indigenes of Fako fraudulently, I should tell you that our ancestors will never forgive us. our ancestors who are in the graves, who preserved this land for us, and now we are sleeping and seeing this land being expropriated, being grabbed by administrators, by non-indigens in a fraudulent manner. We need to stand up.
Okay.
And let the meeting that we are pleading, let our elites call for this urgent FACO meeting. Let us address this issue. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Senior Barrister.
You know, I'm almost like a broken record now. One of my hottest desires is to see other people from FACO and other parts, or younger people like Barrister Willie, come here and talk about this problem. It will please me much to know that when we, the older people, are not there tomorrow, the younger people will ensure the protection of these lands. You see, for too long, people have thought that this is just a one-man fight. No. This fight was begun way back in the 40s by our ancestors. Late Prince David Ndeli, late Chief Iwusi, late Parudo of Efange. All those people began this fight. Late Peter Mukie Efange. They began this fight early before. It is our duty to follow the immediate footsteps of our late uncle, Molanjo Litumbe, who fought valiantly on these issues until he went recently. If we don't prepare the younger generation like Barrister Wule and others, we shall have a void. And it's important that I would like to see tomorrow younger lawyers from FACO, younger people who feel the pain of the loss of our land, come up and talk about it, not as individuals, but as a group.
Okay.
Yes. We intend to call an all-FACO conference in the coming days to talk about these burning issues of our lands being grabbed. So you FACO people, be ready. Ekaki Ishanja, Yakpate, Manambo, Tani, Umapani.
Okay.
Thank you.
Special greetings to you, Mr. Otu Singer, who should be watching us from Buea in Buea. We equally are sending special greetings to all of you watching across the globe. We want to say thank you for the time following the program. We equally want to thank the production team. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Thank you.